because I've watched so many men spend years giving their energy and money away for nothing. For nothing. And for some of you brothers, you complaining to me about your women.
Okay. I'm all for traditional values, such as sitting at the table, eating dinner together. But when your 14-year-old says, Mom, Dad and his female colleague went to a swingers club last Friday evening, and he said they put a whole lot of work in, I think it's time for us to start eating separately once again. What do you think? But anyway, thank you for tuning into the Mind of a Man podcast, where Bush Counseling Services is willing and able to handle all couples' needs, pre and post divorce. So without further ado, let the manifestation begin. Bartender, cue the music.
Welcome to the Mind of a Man podcast, a podcast where men have manversations on topics they rarely discuss, such as health, family, and wealth, to name a few. Now, here's your host, James Bush.
So, I get asked, what are some of the topics men talk about while they're in counseling? You know, men do go to counseling, right? Exactly. And you have the usual suspects, topics such as goals, identity, divorce, and there's divorce, so sometimes women are involved. By the way, I'm James Bush. I'm a black guy and a therapist. This is the Mind of a Man podcast. Pleased to meet you. Now, another topic discussed you probably wouldn't guess would be people pleasing. How do I know? I used to be one, for real. And by the way, the next Simps Anonymous meeting is on Thursday. Get a chip, come early. They even serve free pie. Or maybe no free pie. So by the end of this episode, I'll give you a tip that'll get you on the way to stop being a people pleaser. And before we go any further, like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We release shows every week. For real, we're consistent. We try to be. So subscribe and hit the bell. Easy? Okay. Let's get started. Let's define what is a people pleaser, aka those who exhibit simp tendencies. A people pleaser can be defined as a person who has an emotional need to please others, often at the expense of his or her own needs or desires. I guess the next logical question would be, where does it all come from? Here's a possible origin story, like Marvel Comics. According to research, people pleasing may have its origins in an anxiety attachment style. And I'll cover that in another podcast. They believe that being nice to others means that others will not leave them or lose interest in them. And worse, when they do, it means they weren't nice enough. What does that look like? That looks like the fear of abandonment. It simply means we feel a strong fear of losing our loved ones, friends, families, partners, list goes on now, even a dog, causing us to feed the people-pleasing habit. In an article published by Medical News Today, highlighted that people with abandonment issues may experience problems in relationships because they fear that other people will leave them. Now, this isn't the case for all people. I don't want you to take this as gospel for everybody. But for some, if there was a neglectful parent, or they've been conditioned to have poor boundaries by culture or religious affiliations, you can somewhat guess what may come next. Y'all still with me? Okay, cool. So more than likely, you're looking for examples of this people pleaser or guy with simp tendencies. I got you covered. Maybe it's the guy who buys a nice whip, can't afford, or the big house, can't afford, or anything extra beyond their means to impress people who care even less about them, right? Who care even less about them. And why do they do this? Potentially, it's the need to suppress the anxiety that comes with a missing attachment, bond, connection. Like you can't get a date on Saturday night. They work in total to create bonds that are unhealthy with others due to missing pieces in their lives that, again, may have originated in what? Childhood. Exactly. Or it is the guy that volunteers for every church activity or program. I don't have anything against church people. They're at every service. Meanwhile, their family is at home, suffering because the man in the house is gone. Now, is he doing the work to impress the God of his understanding? I'm not going to say that. I believe he's doing this to impress a man, a pastor. deacon or an elder. Why? Because potentially there is a reward for him being seen by those who never saw him before. We're talking about attachment. Or what about the guy that is in an unhealthy relationship with a guy or a girl or even an alien? I choose alien. They are hoping that that person will change, but there's been no evidence of a change in about 5 years, 2 weeks, and 16 hours. Yeah, I'm counting. Petty like that. So some of you are probably asking, how does a man stop this? This is what I promised you at the beginning. What are the steps? Well, anticlimactic. I only have one step for you today, and it will be all you need to get started. Of course, you're going to need therapy, but you combat this by identifying your needs and desires being connected within. We're talking about self-love, not the type of self-love that involves a bottle of Jergens or Crisco. We're talking about mirroring what is on the inside. What is on the inside, people? When you've discovered who you are confident in the direction that you're going, your boundaries that can be formed from a possibly stable, healthy area. Hope that makes sense. Not right me. And here's a couple examples of what I'm referring to. It's the guy who laughs at his own jokes. He's not looking to impress you. He doesn't need your validation. He knows he's not a comedian, and he's comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that. I'm not a comedian. Well, I try not to be. It's a guy who's not impressed with titles. He treats everybody the same, regardless of the figure. And again, his identity has been cemented from within. He doesn't deviate from that programming, so it wouldn't be at his expense. Or, I like this one. It's the guy that will still driving that 91 Ford Bronco, OJ like, on the way to going fishing after he's been asked by numerous people for favors on his day off, and he has no intentions of fulfilling them. For him, fishing is me time. Yes, fishing, that's me time. And there's no compromising it on that day. So in the book, The Four Agreements, the first agreement talks about being impeccable with your words. Translation, to not sin against yourself. And guess what? You got to use that. Mirror that within and then execute. And I'm going to ask you this. Why is all of this important? Because I've watched so many men spend years giving their energy and money away for nothing. For nothing. And for some of you brothers, you complaining to me about your women. Complaining about all they do. They doing this. They airy. They hot. I'm looking at you. That's you taught her how to treat you. You taught them how to move around you. So bro, it's you. And I mean, let's be honest. You wasn't being 100. You was pandering and catering and caking because you was afraid to lose them, right? Exactly. Now look at you, and you crying. If you keep crying, what the baby's gonna do? But really, seriously, you haven't realized it by now that that person really doesn't like you. They only like what they can get from you, and you be better off buying a Whopper from a burger joint than trying to buy love or buy a friendship. But when you decide to not be a people pleaser, when you decide to not allow others to exploit or misuse you, your money, your time, your energy, you step into a lane of freedom. This freedom sets you on a course to live life, the life you've always wanted. All right, I'm done. I'm done preaching today. I gotta go. So what do you think? Comment below and join the conversation. For more information on topics like this, tune in weekly to the Mind of a Man podcast on all your popular podcasting platforms and even YouTube.